Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode 491. We are here reviewing the 40th ever Sentai ever released, known simply as Doubutsu Sentai Zyuohger. Doubutsu also translated as Animal Sentai Zyuohger. Yes, a little interesting, some fun facts about this one to start with. Number one, this was actually definitely, from what I heard, there was a rumor I have heard for some time. I read, apparently this was considered to be the very next set to be adapted after they adapted Ninja for Ninja Steel, but instead they went with Rider Soldier for Dino Fury. Because the rumor of the reason why they picked that one, because kids love dinosaurs. And I have to say, yes, kids love dinosaurs, yes. But do you know what they also like? Animals! Trains! Yes. Also, second fun fact. This is actually the second ever animal-based Sentai series. Well, you could say kind of in a way this actually is a third, because Live Man basically is an animal-based ones too. True, yes. But this is the one where it is kind of like that, yes. Since Gal Ranger. Yep. And before we get to the actual team itself, basically where the first episode opens up with the character who becomes the Red Ranger team, Yamato, where he's actually with a group of people who's acting like a guide, talking about animals or stuff, and we see a guy who's like, oh, it's a weird deer. It's actually his uncle Mamendo, who is, he actually does this thing where he dresses up as animals for some random reason. So then, for some reason, like, he trips and his good luck charm falls out of his bag, and it turns out it's a cube, and then we have this big cube show up. He puts it inside and gets transported to an area where animals walk like humans. Basically, we debut 4 brand new characters in one scene. Tusk, Amu, they'll then identify himself to basically the end of the episode. It is Tusk, Amu, Leo, and I'm trying to remember the name of the shark lady. Yeah. So they show them around the place, and then all of a sudden something's going on Earth. Amu is basically a white tiger. Leo is a lion, obviously. Tusk is an elephant. Oh, her name is Sala. Yeah. So, but that's basically the names. They don't use names to basically the end of the episode. So they teleported to Earth, and then they use their cubes to transform into, well, basically morphing into bigger cubes and switch them around like it's a Rubik's Cube, and then they morph into Zyuo Lion, Zyuo Tiger, Zyuo Shark, and Zyuo Elephant. And of course, we see Yamato witnessing this. He wants to fight too. The humans are also animals as well. They transform into Zhao Eagle, which makes him the first Red Eagle Ranger since Sun Vulcan. Yeah, that was the last official time this happened. Yeah, but he's also the first one since Gao Yellow to actually become a Eagle Ranger and also fly. And of course, show up their cube weapons, and then of course they beat the monster. But by the way, the villains of this series And it was Death Galleon. Yes, that is the name of these people here. Also, a little interesting, I almost forgot to mention this too. So, when they start airing the series, this start airing just after they just finished airing Dino Force Brave. Yeah. So, and we also have another interesting fun fact with the villains of this series. Who knows? Space Outlaws Death Galleon. Well, they're kind of the best way to describe them is they're kind of like gamers. They're led by a man named Guinness, who's basically trapped inside some octopus thing. And reduced to his generals. Basically, we have Azid. There's also, yes, let's see, there is Quavo. There was basically a team leader named Jagged, who basically the Rangers fight in the first episode. There is Neria, who basically acts as the grower, which reminds me of the character from another series I'll talk about. The Grunzo is Mabates. And, I should probably also show off basically what the Zoo Ranger suits look like. And look at these suits. These are amazing looking suits. Yeah. Also, this is interesting. I think this might be the first time we actually have a white female ranger since Gal Ranger, obviously. Yellow is a guy. And you might be asking, did Ninja Ranger have a yellow male Yellow Ranger? Well, actually, they did have a white female ranger. Yes, they did. I almost forgot they did have one, but this first one had White Tiger as Frontal Lamp. Yes. Yellow was definitely a guy. Blue in that last one was basically a guy, but they did have Pink Ranger. Yeah, this also was the first one in a while to not have a Pink Ranger. You're like, that's interesting. Yes. So you probably got me asking, like, Nick, what was the last series to not have a Pink Ranger? Was it Kyojin? No, they definitely did have one. This probably is the first one not to have Pink Ranger since Go Busters. Yes. Also, the Death Galleon's base operations, it's not some building on Earth. Oh no. Their base operations let's see if I can find it here. It's something that no one would ever suspect that we have a villain team do this. Are you thinking, what is that? Well, their base operation is known as the Serengeti Arc, which is a spaceship. Yes, which makes it the first one since the Zankiak Empire to have their main base be a spaceship. They're like, really? It took that long? The ship was destroyed in 2012, and yet this came out in 2016. Yeah. Gotta praise them for that. Not many. I should point out, though, not many of these bases. That sort of functions as a warrior dome. But in the case of villain bases based in space, it is not the first one. Oh no. You're probably thinking, what was the first one to do this? First one that did this was actually Changeman. Yes, where it was basically a mothership garment. Yep. And there's also a Bulma Castle, Galactic Ship Zyuohger, but after Galactic Ship Zyuohger, next one will not be until Death in the Zero. That was kind of a space station, but a spaceship. I would say Parasite Fortress Centipede, because that was kind of a spaceship. So I'm going to count that. I'm thinking, okay. Well, they did have one of the first villain factions in Go Sager. They did have basically a spaceship known as, the Universal Mothership Invader, which basically was part of the Universal Annihilation Army Warstar. Which, yes. But was there anyone after this one that was a space-based one? That was basically a spaceship? Nope. I think this might be like the last one for quite some time where basically the main base is basically a spaceship. Yeah, so they send the people down to Earth. And then of course we debut our mecha. Which was Zhao King, which is basically they have their own mechs, which are cube shaped. And I saw this, and I'm like, did this series take inspiration from Minecraft? It's possible. And here it is. Zhao King. That's the 1-2-3 formation. This is then episode 2 they debut the 1-4-5 formation. And then 3 they basically swap back and forth between 2 formations, but basically still the same mech. Excuse me. Basically, they come together with this big rod, which also functions. The tip of it is actually a sword. It comes right to these top of these 3 cubes. pulls out, beats the monster. And then the very next episode, well, at the end of the first episode, well, after 3 introduce themselves, Tusk is not very trusting of him. He gains his trust for the next episode because they're connected. So then the 3 are just shown the real world. And then he has to put collars on them because they're out of control. Takes them to his place. Introduces his uncle, which of course he took his collars before then. And like, oh, they say why almost too. So, and then of course those their tails, and of course Uncle hallucinates and briefly turn back to their human form. He's like, Posing was boring. I think when he was tired, I think it was, yes. It's gonna be. So, even the first episode, they sent out a team leader. In episode 2, they actually sent out a player. Yes, this is the first one to use a player, not a leader, a player. And the first out is Habergi, just a shooter. And then we have blowguns in episode 2. 3 actually, yeah, 3. Yeah, and the whole thing is like shooting the place up, of course. And they, of course, Tusk by the end of episode 2, he does trust him, of course, bring him home, but he can't. But he has a strong sense of smell, so he couldn't sense the smell very much all the end of episode 2. And then 3 does something interesting. Like 3. Three debuts a cube. Yes. A cube Karin. Yep. A giraffe cube. Yeah, they thought this was the champion cube because they were looking for it, and it turns out this is an auxiliary cube. You're thinking, really? So we're looking for doing this stuff again. So it's a reused plot idea from Gal Ranger, but at least basically it's not. But I at least got praised for this. That it's not the same first creature that did in that one too. Which I thought that was quite cool, the fact that, and basically it's when it's basically cube, it's basically originally it was like black, but then it turns out it's a giraffe. And forms a bazooka, and, well, it does an auxiliary mech, and they use it frequently. Yeah, and, of course, the person who found this cube was actually Yamato. Thanks to a ability he gained, thanks to being a Zyuohger, where he apparently gains a really good eyesight. You're like, that's interesting. Celia's got good hearing. Leo was just loud. I would have thought Amon basically has got good sense of smell because, you know, she's a tiger. But no, her whole thing is good taste. Yep, that's basically her specialty is tasting. Also, she loves, I believe it or not, she loves fashion. So she goes on a shopping spree with Yamato, which I'm like, how the heck can he afford this stuff? He's just basically a zoologist. He probably got grants, per se, but yeah, and then, of course, bring it home, of course, and, well, it's something to look forward to the rest of the show with more of these auxiliary mechs. But he's got praised for that one, the fact that we debuted one. But it's going to be quite interesting as the show goes forward, basically, of the stuff that's going to happen throughout the course of the show, which I'm looking forward to it. Yep, so yeah, that's took a view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. I have to go out for a bit to get some gas for my car, and then I'll be right back to work on a comic. Work on the next 3 episodes of Zyuohger and a comic corner. Okay, thanks, view. Bye.